The California Department of Fish and Wildlife has confirmed chronic wasting disease is now in California. This is a disease that spreads quickly and threatens the entire herd of ungulates here in California. Major implications here. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. That is right, we have another thing to worry about now within the hunting community. This time it is chronic wasting disease. Here to talk us through it is the Legislative Director of CRPA. He is also the host of Firing Line Radio Show. You can catch him on AM 590 The Answer every Saturday at 1 p.m. That is Rick Travis. Rick, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. But before we get into that, guys, if you want to be a part of the advocacy with legislation in California, if you directly want to contribute to 2A lawsuits in California, please be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell also so that when news breaks, just like you're going to hear in this video today, it will come to your inbox as soon as it gets onto YouTube. So, Rick, let's just jump right into this really quick. So we've got the California Department of Fish and Wildlife who are on the media campaign trail right now. We got an email from them, and Jacob, if you can actually pull this up, I just wanted to read directly from this concerning chronic wasting disease. It says this: chronic wasting disease has been detected for the first time in California's deer and elk. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife received confirmation on May 6 samples collected from 2 deer, one in Madera County near Yosemite Lakes and the other in Inyo County near Bishop. The email goes on to say CDFW has been monitoring California elk and deer populations for chronic wasting disease through lymph node sampling and testing since 2000, testing over 6,500 deer and elk, and has been working to increase surveillance efforts with the help of hunters, taxidermists, and meat processors since 2018. The disparate locations of these 2 detections indicates that CWD has probably been present in California for some time, since the incubation period can be months to years. Chronic wasting disease infected animals can excrete infectious prions before clinical signs appear, and these prions can persist in the environment for years, making it very difficult to prevent control the spread once it has been introduced, says Dr. Brandon Monk, CDFW's wildlife veterinarian who oversees chronic wasting disease surveillance and response efforts. So, Rick, I guess the question to you here is, this is something that the hunting community has been watching for a while. We've seen chronic wasting disease throughout the country, especially in the surrounding states. What exactly is the gravity with this situation now, knowing that chronic wasting disease is in California, and what does it mean for the hunting community as well as the deer and elk here?
Wow, that's a lot of what does this mean? So I'll go down the list. First off, chronic wasting disease is something that people, have labeled the zombie disease for deers, things like that. And those are not unfounded. A lot of times people bring some hype to it. This is a horrific disease for any of us who have ever been curious or heard about diseases among humans like dengue valley fever, Ebola. This is like that type of disease. It's at that level. It is a very serious disease. When you talked about prion is the way this disease is housed. It's called a prion. It's not a virus. And prions can live underground. I mean, we know from some of the areas where we've been studying this that prions can live several feet under the ground, come back up through the vegetation. The deer eat it. It passes that way. So once it presents in nature, it is, at this stage of the game, near impossible to eradicate. And Dr. Brandon Monk, who is the vet, has been, like you mentioned, in that working with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, is an expert. He is very serious, very well equipped on this subject matter. And he's reached out to the hunting community, to those of us that work in the capital space. It is a scary, scary disease. And the problem with any what is called a zoonotic disease, a disease among animals, is at what point does it move from a particular species subset to another? And the secondary, when it moves from us or from them to us. Another prion-based disease that many of you are probably more familiar with is a bovine, being a cattle disease known as mad cow disease. That was prion based, and when the cows got it, nobody was really concerned until the outbreak of mad cow disease jumped to humans, starting in Great Britain, and we had some cases here in the United States, as we all know. Um, Beef prices went through the roof at that time, and a lot of people realized that, wow, you couldn't eat beef from England. They had to literally decimate herd after herd after herd. And we also saw the opposition to those people that, I'm not talking about people that did it for health reasons, but the radicals that are against eating animal proteins took up that cause to say, see, we're right and you're wrong, and try to outlaw everything. So those are all the concerns that we've seen, and it's reared its head in other states that have been dealing with CWD. I think the big thing, Kevin, is understanding that it's why I tell people all the time you can't be comfortable, because if you were to look at maps until the last probably 2 weeks of where CWD was, California looked really, really good because we had the states of Arizona, Nevada, and Oregon that had no detected CWD. So it was like, well, we'll start to get nervous, Kevin, when one of those states detects it. But the problem is CWD has many vectors that can be transmitted by hikers that are hiking through areas where they didn't even see the prions. They get on their shoes, they take their hiking shoes off, put in their cars, they put on their lawns, they live in places. It could be spread that way and come up in the grass 2 years later. A deer walking by eats it, and voila, it's in that area. The second thing is to look at the two detected areas that we found it in. We found it in Inyo County, which is in the eastern Sierras along the border. So common sense would be, like Dr. Monk said, it's probably already in Arizona, Nevada. We just have yet to detect it because we don't test every deer. We don't. So it's probably already there, which is causing those agencies to go, oh, and look harder. But we also have it, this wonderful border called the Sierra Nevadas. And so the hope was, even if it made it across the border, we would have a little bit of time before it got into the Central Valley. But part of the bulletin tells us they got to Madera County, Yosemite Lakes area, which is in the Central Valley. So unfortunately, the disease is on both sides of that natural barrier, which brings us back to a conversation that we've had multiple times, and that would be probably now the most protected deer herd in the West, could be argued, is those mule deer out on Catalina Island, that until somebody moves it across the channel, we might want to take some precautions to protect that herd. So we have a DNA structure, we have a herd that we could try to rebuild depending on how bad this gets.
Well, yeah, that's actually a direction that I wanted to go with you. But before I go there, so I mean, there are future implications of potentially, ingesting this and having a virus jump from, or I'm sorry, you said it's not a virus, it's a prion, but go from the deer to the humans. There is, I guess, a more intimate issue right now. I mean, the disease does kill the deer that are infected with it. But also, you do have this issue that we're dealing with right now. We've been arguing for a while over the mule deer population on Catalina. One of our biggest parts of the advocacy was for this very specific reason. I guess you can kind of call it ironic that we just detected chronic wasting disease in California when we've been saying that isolated herd is going to be the saving grace if that ever does happen. I guess, in your opinion, what do you see the California Department of Fish and Wildlife doing here? Ultimately, it's them who can grant the conservatory on Catalina the permit to do what they want to do. Do you see this shaping their decision at all?
I think it will be an influential factor. I mean, I have no crystal ball into the department staff and the leadership at the top of how they're going to reflect on this. I know that while I don't always agree with everything that comes out of there, I do know that the people up there are taking this extremely serious. And so I would never want to say anything that would say otherwise. And so I think there's going to be a lot of factors that are going to come into play. But I would definitely say the landscape, no pun intended, has changed drastically over the last 24 hours.
So where exactly does this leave the hunting community? I mean, are we going to start seeing more guidelines, best practices for hunting for the deer and the elk themselves, and for the hunting community? Where exactly does this discovery leave them?
So unfortunately, some of the messaging out there is that this is like a deer disease or an elk disease. It's an ungulate disease. And an ungulate is any animal that has a split hoof like a deer. So this would include, Kevin, moose. It would include antelope, etc. And one of the other parts of this that's, we use terms and try to always educate people. You go to the grocery store like a Sprouts or a Mother's or a Whole Foods, et cetera, that sells game meat that's been packaged from a farm. And that game meat often will have the word venison. And people automatically assume venison is deer. No, venison is a collect-all. It could have moose parts, elk parts, antelope parts, deer parts. It's not deer only. So I think you're going to see testing and a lot of things come to bear on the places that use game animals for providing those meats to those health food stores. You're going to see a lot happen that had already been happening, but now maybe the hunting community is going to look at this even harder. I mean, there's great organizations like Cal Deer who focus on the deer here in California who do a tremendous job. And definitely want to do a hat tip to them on that. They're front and center working around the clock with CRPA on this issue, along with others. The concern is it's not just the hunting community. Like I said, this most likely never came in from a hunter. This most likely could have been something simple as people going out and seeing wildlife, not recognizing the telltale signs, maybe not even seeing the telltale signs. And now we've got, CWD on the borderline of, three big national parks in California, Kings Canyon, Sequoia, and Yosemite. There's a strong chance, which I think is what the department was trying to say, that it's probably in other places that we don't know. And so you can't look at a map and go, wow, it's over here in Inyo and it's over here in Madera. You have to kind of assume it's probably in that space in between. And so as a result, you go hiking through, you walk through stuff, you don't know what you're walking through, and then you carry it home or you carry it to another part. I mean, that's the problem with this disease. It's not simple to eradicate. And how many people go bleach their hiking shoes right after they've walked in? Nobody.
Right.
So
Well, yeah,
now you look at
certainly.
a million people transversing, that's a million vectors.
Yeah. Well, certainly the education campaign starts now. You're going to be seeing that out of CRPA surely. Hopefully, the Department of Fish and Wildlife as well. Rick, what are your final thoughts on this for the immediate as well as the long-term implications?
I think the first thing is don't panic and don't spread rumors and things. The CRPA and the California Hunting Conservation Coalition, Cal Deer, are working right now around the clock to put out bulletins. Read the bulletins, go to the facts. Don't go to the media, and other people are going to try to conflate this into things that just isn't. Stay with us, do what we always do, follow the science, and we will weather this storm like so many others.
Well, I definitely want to thank you for taking the time. I know that this is prospectively got a lot of work ahead of us. Looking forward to that. I want to thank you in advance for doing that. Thanks for taking the time with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And guys, if you like these kinds of videos and you like being updated on what's going on in the community with Second Amendment litigation and legislative efforts, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the algorithms to push this message out to as many people as possible. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.